In this video, we take a look at Bessey sequences of order 8. So as a quick reminder for the viewer, here is the structure of a Bessey sequence of order 8. It's 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. And the black dividing bar is just there to help us see where the center of this sequence is. Now, in the past, we've taken full advantage of the power of Bessey sequences in dividing up different sets of cards. What we look at today is something I've called less is more. We're going to look at the benefits of using a Bessey sequence in a more restricted but powerful way. Okay, so let's take a look at our driving principle today. Now, I guess I should mention over here on the left, here is a small list of Bessey shuffles. You may recall that a Bessey shuffle is defined to be any shuffle that preserves or inverts Bessey sequences. And so here is a list that we're going to work through during this video today. So our driving principle for what we will accomplish here is, instead of utilizing the full power of Bessey sequences and Bessey shuffles, you can accomplish simple but still surprising tasks such as: Number 1, separating two cards from each other into distinct piles after significant randomization has been performed. For example, using a narrative that the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds dislike each other. Proving this point by placing the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds initially together at the top of a packet of 8 cards. So with the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds at the top of a packet of 8 cards, we can associate the Queen of Spades with a 1 and the Queen of Diamonds with a 0 in the quintessential Bessey sequence 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. Consequently, Bessey shuffling will preserve the separation of the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds as being members of opposite and dichotomous categories of position values. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this before we continue looking at our write-up here. So here we have the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds, as mentioned. And then I will simply choose 6 indifferent random cards from the rest of the deck. So here we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to, as mentioned, place the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds on top. So in some sense, you can justify this by saying that we're going to prove that these two cards do not like each other. And in fact, they'll end up being separated in the end, despite random choices made by the spectator. Okay, and one of the other purposes for today is to go ahead and review and demonstrate some of these Bessey shuffles that preserve or invert Bessey sequences. So what we're going to do is randomly choose 4 of these shuffles to perform on this packet here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just roll our 20-sided die, and it comes up a 15. So right here, a down-under shuffle. So let's go ahead and show you how that one's done, if you don't recall. So this is where the top card goes down. The next one goes under. Down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Last one goes on top. So that's called the down-under shuffle, also called the Australian shuffle. So let's go ahead and mark that one as having been demonstrated. So there we go. Let's roll our die again. 19. So 19, what do we have here? Well, we have a couple of choices, and we can do both. It's the LR to the negative R, and also the judicious stacking of those. Okay, so let's go ahead and demonstrate this. Okay, so let me move my die over here somewhere. Okay, so the LR to the negative R, what that means is you deal out into 1, 2, 3, 4 piles. Now, instead of dealing out into the same piles in that same order, you reverse the order. Now we put the next card here, then here, then here, then here. So the LR to the negative R is where we do this, and then we stack from left to right or right to left. It really is the choice of the spectators to make. They're free to choose either one of those. Now, what's this J in front? Well, the difference here is the stacking is a bit more random, looking at least. Okay, so judicious stacking, for those who have watched other videos, I've called it the leapfrog stacking. So this is where you can go from left to right or right to left, and you leap over the neighbors. So maybe we'll go from right to left. So this one leaps over that one and lands on the next one. This one leaps over its neighbor on the left and lands on the first pile, and then random stacking here. And it truly is. The spectator can decide how to stack those two piles at the end. Okay, so that is number 19 demonstrated. So let's go ahead and roll our die again. Number 10. 10 is a mange 2. Okay. Now, I do want to point out that this shuffle, this mange 2, is brand new, actually. I've never seen it performed before, and I discovered that it actually preserves or inverts Bessey sequences. Okay, so the regular mange shuffle is where you push the top card over, and then this one goes over, the next one goes under, over, under, over, under. Okay, with the mange 2, you push 2 at a time. So you go, you push this one over, 1, 2, so top, 1, 2 on the bottom, 1, 2 on the top, 1, 2 on the bottom. Okay, so that is a quote mange 2, because you're moving 2 cards at each stage. Okay, so what does the die tell us to do? 6, I believe. So this is something called an RC shuffle. Okay, so R stands for row, C stands for column. It's a reminder that the stay stack principle is kind of behind what's going on here. So in the case of 8 cards, what we do is we look at the divisors of 8, which are 2 and 4. And so in particular, we can deal out into 2 piles. Well, that's really just the left-right shuffle. Or we can deal out into 4 piles, like this. Now this time we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go 5, 6, 7, 8, okay, in that same order. It's different from the one that we just did here, right? Because there we went in reverse order for the second level, okay? So this is very much a different ordering of the cards. It truly is. Now we can stack from left to right or right to left. You want to go right to left, okay? So that's what we call the RC shuffle in the case of 4 piles. Now the judicious one is where we can do the leapfrog stacking. Okay, so with what we just did, we could have done a leapfrog. Well, let's go ahead and just do it. So maybe the spectator will ask for leapfrog stacking from left to right. So this is what you do for that. Random stacking here and right on left. Okay, very good. Now I have this note about across versus down. And this is something I actually haven't really emphasized in my videos, but it's very powerful. Instead of dealing like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can actually go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. Okay, and we can do left to right, right to left, or leapfrog. Maybe we'll just do left to right, regular stacking, not the leapfrog stacking, but you could if you wanted to. Okay, so the across or down is where you're dealing down into the piles instead of from left to right and building them up that way. Okay, so that takes care of our fourth shuffle for this first segment of our video today. Okay, so I need to make sure I keep the packet in camera view. Okay, so the claim is that this is still a Bessey sequence. It has a Bessey sequence structure. Well, if it does, what that means then is that it'll look something like this here, where it's a structure where you have the cards in position 1, 4, 6, 7 will be of one group in just a moment, and cards in positions 2, 3, 5, 8 will be in the other group. And so what we do to create these two special separate groups is just picture the digits here. So maybe we'll put the 1s on the left, 0s on the right, and we're going to kind of follow this. Okay, so maybe I'll move it up here. So we're going to go like 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay, now what we are guaranteed to have done is we have separated the cards into two piles of 4, of course, but we've done it in such a way that the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds are guaranteed to be in different groups, despite the fact that they started together. And this is to confirm to the whole world that the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds really don't get along. Okay, if they have a choice, they'll stay away from each other. Okay, so there we go, Queen of Diamonds in the first pile, and that would leave the Queen of Spades over here. Indeed, they really seem to have pretty strong negative feelings about the other. Okay, so that's like one narrative you could use where you're just separating two cards that began together. Now, I do want to point out that we could have started, what we did was we had them together at the front of this special sequence, the Bessey sequence of order 8. But really, wherever you put the Queen of Spades, the Queen of Diamonds needs to be in a position of opposite value when it comes to the 0s and 1s. So if you put the Queen of Spades here, that's in a position occupied by a 1, so that means you could then put the Queen of Diamonds in the final position, which is occupied by a 0. Okay? And in the end, those will be separated despite all of the randomization that we could do. This is what we did. We started with them at the top. You could have them start at the bottom together and then separate them in the end. You could have them start together in the middle. Okay, and there's other possibilities as well. Okay, so that is the first kind of application of Bessey sequences where we are not necessarily taking advantage of the full power of a Bessey sequence. Okay, so for this next one, it's essentially the opposite of what we just did. So just think about what the opposite would be of what we just did. What we just did in the previous section is we started out with cards together, and then we separated them into different piles of 4 cards each. Well, here the narrative could be that these two cards, despite what you do with randomization of the packet, they just always seem to come back together in the same pile. Okay, so there's kind of an affinity or attraction among these cards. Okay. So a narrative that involves two cards being attracted to each other or forming a complete pair, such as the King and Queen of Hearts. So here the King of Hearts and Queen of Hearts need to both occupy positions labeled as either 1s or labeled as 0s. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull out those cards that we'll be using for this next demonstration. So we have, as before, 6 indifferent cards. These are not cards important, except for the fact that they're taking up space in this sequence of 8 objects, really. Okay, so if you were to go with the first one there, you could just comment on, how we're going to begin with these a bit separated. Let's see, maybe we'll put that one there, and this one there, and that one there, and maybe this one there, and that one there. Okay, so you just make it out. You make it out as if it's kind of random. Okay, but what we're looking for here, I happen to have put it into this structure. The indifferent cards don't matter. That's why you can kind of scramble those a bit and make it look like, wow, things are really random here. Well, not really, because the only two we're interested in are the King and Queen of Hearts. And they now occupy positions 1 and 4. So they are placed where, quote, 2 of the ones are located. Okay? Now, despite all of the randomization using these Bessey shuffles, these 2 cards are going to end up together. Okay? They will just be attracted to one another. No force in the universe will keep that from happening. Okay, so let's go ahead and just randomly choose some of our Bessey shuffles, since any of these can actually be performed on a Bessey sequence and not harm it. Okay, so here we go. 1. Okay, a 50% coating. There it is. So what's a 50% coating? Well, COAT stands for count out and transfer. So what you do here is you just count out half the cards, which is 4 in the case of 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you drop the rest on top. That is a 50% coating. Okay, so a fairly simple action to perform. Okay. Now realize that as we get the number of shuffles down to a smaller and smaller group that we haven't used, we may have to roll the die, like right here. So this is technically a 6. I think we've done that one. Okay. So 18. So 18's down here. Push off pairs, or judicious push off pairs. Okay, so that's what the POP stands for. So what that means then is you just push off pairs, like you don't change their order, like 2 there, 2 here, 2 there, 2 there, random stacking. Maybe the spectator will say, I want right on left. Very good. If you want to increase the complexity a bit, you can actually push off pairs into 4 piles. With random stacking decided by the spectator, up to a point, it's random. You can stack from left to right, right to left, or leapfrog stacking. Should we do leapfrog from right to left? Okay, so this is where we leap over its neighbor. This is where we leap over its neighbor, and then random stacking here, decided by the spectator. Okay, so that takes care of this one here. Okay, and let's go ahead and roll. We get a 12. Okay, a Pharaoh shuffle. Okay, that's a nice one. So a Pharaoh shuffle. How does a Pharaoh shuffle work? Well, technically a Pharaoh shuffle comes in 2 varieties, but an in and an out, either one works. Either one preserves Bessey sequences, so in the end it won't matter. Okay, so this is where you kind of fan out the cards so that you can see them. You take, let's say, the bottom half, bottom 4 cards, and now you perfectly interlace them with the top half. That's all you have to do. So that is a Pharaoh shuffle. Okay. Now we can also do a Pharaoh random flip shuffle. Okay. So what happens here, which is kind of cool, is you introduce flipping. Okay. So why don't we do one of those? So you go ahead and just fan it out, just as we've done. Take half of them. And now technically what you can do is flip either half and then interlace them. Okay, and so I could have flipped the other half if I wanted. It wouldn't matter. So either half gets flipped, and then it looks like this mess right here. Okay, so that's kind of fun. So it introduces face up, face down cards. That's great. Okay, so that is the Pharaoh, and then this Pharaoh with random flipping of 1 half. Is complete. Let's find another one here, 20. We haven't done 20 yet, so that's great. So this is a Bessey 1-1 and a Bessey 2-2. Now these are original shuffles, so I had to give them a name, so I just called them Bessey 1-1 and Bessey 2-2. Now the names are descriptive. So a Bessey 1-1 is where you take 1 card from the top, 1 from the bottom, one from the top, one from the bottom, one from the top, one from the bottom, one from the top. The last one goes on top. Okay, so that is a Bessey 1-1. Now you can probably guess what a Bessey 2-2 is. This is where we take 2 from the top, 1, 2. And then 2 from the bottom, 1, 2. 2 from the top, 1, 2. 2 from the bottom, 1, 2. Okay, so that is a Bessey 1-1 and a Bessey 2-2. Okay, and that actually completes our 4 shuffles for this particular effect here. And so now we just have to remember that this is a Bessey sequence of order 8. And so we like to just separate it, using its overall structure to help us. So remember, if you want to associate the top card as a 1, the next one's a 0, 0, 1, and so forth, we're going to separate the cards into a bunch of 1s, quote 1s, and a bunch of 0s. Okay, and that will pull apart this Bessey sequence and achieve the very thing that we hope to achieve. So if you think of 1 here, 0 here, so it's like 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay, now the claim is that we've kind of done the opposite of what we did in the first routine. Here we've actually brought the King of Hearts and the Queen of Hearts together. Okay, so they won't be in separate piles like we saw with the Queen of Spades and the Queen of Diamonds in the last routine. So it better be the case. See, here's the Queen of Hearts. So we're claiming that somewhere in here is the King of Hearts. And if we haven't messed up, it should be here somewhere. Well, it's not that one. There it is. We found him indeed. So where these began apart and were randomly mixed, with the spectator deciding all of the important choices, as well as this random event here, a die roll, we were able to bring those 2 cards together, and that's guaranteed to happen despite any of these shuffles being used. That's the amazing thing, and that's despite all of the random choices we give the spectator along the way when it comes to stacking order. Should we stack from left to right, right to left? Should we flip the left, flip the right? Should we do a leapfrog, and so forth? Okay, so that is the second routine that we wanted to show you here. Okay, for this number 2 performance, but it's an alternative way to actually doing it. So let's go ahead and just give the cards a couple of Pharaoh shuffles. Now it's important to note that these won't be perfect Pharaoh shuffles, because if you do that, you can actually control the cards. But here I'm actually just randomizing the cards. Okay, so what we're going to do differently here is, instead of having like the King and Queen of Hearts that we bring together at the end, what you could do is have a freely chosen spectator card, and then 1 card chosen by the performer, and along with 6 indifferent cards. And the narrative is that your card, the performer's card, will help locate the spectator's card after thorough mixing. And then consider perhaps placing the performer's card face up so that it is visible throughout the mixing and separating phases. So that's kind of a fun little suggestion there. Okay, so what you do, now unfortunately we'll have to see what the spectator's card is, right? Otherwise we won't know whether we succeeded. So the spectator's free to choose any card. Maybe they choose that one there. And then the performer chooses one as well. This one can be openly shown, okay? And we'll set the rest of the cards aside for a minute. Okay, so normally only the spectator would see this, not you, but we'll take a look at it so we'll know that whether we succeeded. So the card we need to remember as the spectator's card is the 6 of diamonds, okay? And so this is our card that we'll keep face up. And now we just need 6 other cards, okay? Now there's a few ways of doing this as far as, okay, this is their card there. So you could go ahead and just, let's just deal out 6 cards from different places in the deck, just so people feel comfortable that these are random cards, which they truly are, okay? Okay, so we have 6 cards here, and maybe as a reminder, if you remember in the last performance, where did we place things? Well, the key here is you have to place the spectator's card and your card in the same locations when it comes to either the zeros or the ones. And there's far more possibilities than what's listed here. So if for whatever reason we would like to go with the same placement as we did before, that would be fine. So perhaps we could go ahead and just put out 4 cards like that. These would be, quote, the bottom cards. Place their special card next, which is where the queen is marked there. Drop these 2 on top. That's where the zeros are. And then our chosen card as the performer goes on top. Okay, so that would be one way. Now there are other ways to place them where you don't have one of the important cards on top or bottom for that matter, but this would be perfectly fine to start this way, because the key is the performer's card being in position 1 and the spectator's card being in position 4. Both of these are in locations occupied by 1s. So in the end, we'll be able to mix this significantly and then divide them so that the performer card locates the exact pile where the spectator's card must be. Okay, so now we need to randomize these cards, of course, using some of our shuffles here. So let's go ahead and just roll the die. A 19, I'm pretty sure we've done that one already. 5. Oh, good. We haven't done that one yet. Okay, so this is the LR shuffle. This is just a left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, with random stacking, left on right or right on left, decided by the spectator. Okay, we can also do a cross. We've just done a cross. You could also do down, where you do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then random stack. We can also flip the cards if you like. I suppose we could do that. I mean, in this particular case, I'm not sure if that would necessarily be helpful. Maybe it will be. Let's go ahead and find out together here. So you do left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Now the spectator is free to flip and then stack in whatever order they like. So maybe they'll flip these face up, and maybe they'll stack the right one on top of the left. That's just fine, okay? So none of that will hurt the underlying structure of this sequence of cards. Okay, so we can go ahead and mark that one as complete. We have shown number 5. Okay, we need a few more here. 10, very good. Oh, no, we've done 10. I thought we hadn't. Okay, 2. Oh, a supercoat. That's a great one. So a supercoat is essentially a 50% coating on steroids. That's what it is. So 50% coating, this is where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, half the cards. Now, normal coating, you'd put these on top. That would just be a regular 50% coating, okay? With a supercoat, you have a lot of possibilities. So we, instead of stacking these on top of those, we can stack these on top of those, or we could flip either one of these and then randomly stack in either order, okay? So if for example, we wanted to, maybe they want to flip this one, okay? Maybe that one's boring. Sorry, that flips it back the way it was. Okay, so maybe they'll flip this one. They'll say, okay, let's flip this one. And how do you want these stacked? Left on right? Okay, very, very good. Okay, so that is a supercoat. So that has rearranged the cards in a way that's decided by the spectator. Actually, all of those choices truly could have been made by the spectator. Okay, 16. Oh, here we go. So this is a 50% down under. So it's kind of a fun one. So this is where you go down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under. Okay, so if you remember in a previous segment in this video, we did a full-fledged Australian down under, but here you just do it for half the cards, okay? Half the cards. And with these, you can actually randomly flip either half and then stack them however you like. So maybe they'll randomly flip this one and then stack this one on top of that one. That's just great. Okay, so that's 16. So that's complete. Let's do another one here. The 6 we've done. I recognize that one. 3. Oh, a Klondike. Very good. So a Klondike shuffle. Okay, so this is where you hold the cards in this way and you take the bottom and top card off as one. Top and bottom card off as one, and then the last pair goes on top. So that is a Klondike shuffle. Very, very useful shuffle. Okay, what's the next one here? 16, I'm pretty sure we just did. 2, we also just did. How about 8? Oh, a Charlier 1. Oh, that's a great shuffle. Okay, so a Charlier 1 is where it's a special case of a Charlier shuffle, if you've seen those before. So this is where you push the top card over, and then the bottom single card here goes on top. This card here goes on bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top. Okay, so that is a Charlier 1 shuffle. And I apologize, it looks like we did one more shuffle than we were supposed to do, because I was hoping to do 4 shuffles for each performance, and it looks like we did 5 for this one. So sorry about that. This packet got especially mixed up well, I guess. Okay, well, let's go back. This is still a Bessey sequence. That's the amazing thing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and separate these two, okay, using the structure here. So 1's on the left, 0's on the right. So 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay. And so what we should have done is we should be able to locate. Now this is because we flipped the cards, because we've been flipping the cards with some of these shuffles. This particular routine where you start with it face up has been kind of lost on us. I'm going to flip these face up so we can see our card, our special card. Okay, if you remember, the performer's card was the 2 of diamonds. Okay, and if we hadn't chosen to flip portions of the card, all of these would be face down, except for this one, and then we would locate this pile 4 right here, and we would find that the spectator's card, which if you recall is the 6 of diamonds, is in this same pile. Our card, as the performer, located the spectator's card. Okay, so that kind of worked out a little differently than I envisioned. It's because we allowed card flipping along the way. Okay, so that kind of muddled. So I guess what I should show you would have happened if we had not flipped anything. And you don't have to flip those. You could go back in time and do all of the shuffles, but choose not to flip either half. Everything would have worked out fine. We would have ended up here at the very end with 2 piles of 4, just like this, and we would know that somewhere in here is the 6 of diamonds, which was the spectator's chosen card. And the 2 of diamonds was the originally chosen card for the performer. Okay, very good. Okay, so that kind of worked out differently than I envisioned because of card flipping being allowed there. Okay, so for this third one, the narrative we're going to use is we'll have one joker who is a dangerous fellow. Okay, this guy is to be avoided at all costs. And then we have the 4 queens. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put these cards together with 3 indifferent cards so that we have 8, and then we're just going to randomize these cards and then separate them into 2 piles of 4 cards each, and the goal is to keep the joker away from all 4 queens. That's the goal. Okay, and this needs to be achieved despite all of the random choices made by the spectator. Okay, so what we need to do here is we just simply need to decide, should we put the queens in the positions marked as 1s, or in the positions marked as zeros. Now, on my handout here, what I've done is I've put the queens in the positions marked by zeros, and that would be just fine. And then you can put the joker on top if you like, or any other position. Okay, so for example, so we could have, so the joker's on top. Okay, so we'd have a couple of queens, queen, queen, and a different card, a queen here, right there, some kind of indifferent card, another indifferent card, and then a queen on the bottom. Okay, and I didn't quite follow the exact choice of where each queen went in the positions marked by zeros, but it doesn't actually matter. Okay, so technically this is a Bessey sequence relative to the queens being in kind of opposite positions relative to the zeros and ones as the joker is. Okay, and the other thing I want to point out is these are just, this card here is just a random card that you chose. This is just some random card. This is another random card. Those can be anything whatsoever. And the ones I chose were different than those, but so we call them indifferent cards if they're not the focal point of the performance. They're just filler cards, essentially. Okay, and so now what we can do is go ahead and just randomize this to the content of the spectator. And of course, we're going to use our table here so that we can demonstrate some of these Bessey shuffles. Now, it may get kind of tricky to find one that we haven't done. So we may have to, 17. Okay, we haven't done that one yet. So it's a 50% under down deal. Okay, so here we go. So this is where you go under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. Okay. Normally, a full under down, 100% under down, you would continue that process, but we've done it for half the cards. And now, technically, you can randomly stack these. And in fact, you can randomly flip one half and then randomly stack if you like. But I think we'll avoid having cards face up for this particular performance. Probably won't be all that helpful. So you just have the spectator tell you, you want left on right or right on left. They want left on right. Very good. So let's go ahead and mark that one as completed and that we've demonstrated that shuffle. Okay, let's get another one here. 19, of course, we've done. 19. 10. 10 is the mange. This is a good, no, that's 6. Sorry about that. 18. We're going to be here a while. I may have to just make an executive order here because I think it's going to be hard to get one that we haven't done. This is kind of a great example of randomization in action where you're trying to hit something that you haven't hit yet. Oh, we hit one. 4. Ooh, that was a lot of work. So 4 right here. The alternate Klondike. That's what the AK stands for. So alternate Klondike, it's like the Klondike shuffle, but you go ahead and put out these pairs, top and bottom, one on the left, one on the right. Next pair from the top and bottom goes on the left, and then the last 2 cards go on the right. And then random stacking decided by the spectator. Maybe they'll go left on right. Okay, so that's the AK. The J means judicious. Well, what that means then is that you can actually deal these out into 4 piles in the case of a Bessey sequence of order 8. And you can stack from left to right, right to left, or leapfrog stacking. So maybe they'll just do left to right. That's fine. Okay. Perhaps we should do one with leapfrog stacking, just to kind of practice that one again. So here, just do the alternate Klondike into 4 piles. And then maybe we'll do the leapfrog stacking from right to left. So this one leaps over its neighbor, lands there. This one leaps over its neighbor, lands there. Random stack here. Maybe the spectator will say right on left. That's great. And then the other thing you can do is you can do a left, right, like we did over here, and then randomly flip either half and random stack. But since we're trying to avoid having the cards face up in this particular routine, maybe we won't actually do that. But that is one you can do without destroying the nature or structure of this sequence. Okay, I want to see how many we've left for later. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we could do another one here. I wonder if we should just choose one on the list here. I think we're going to have 11. We got one, right? Yeah. So 11, an up jog. Okay. Well, up jogs come in two varieties, an even or an odd up jog. Okay. So how this works then is, like for example, if you want to push forward the even position cards, it would look like this. This is position 2, position 4, position 6, position 8. And then you strip these out with random stacking decided by the spectator. In fact, you can even do more than that. You can randomly flip one half and then random stack. But like I said, I think we'll avoid having cards face up, so maybe they'll want the right on left. Okay, that's just fine. So that is a up jog. And maybe we'll stop there, since I know that we implemented one more than we were supposed to in an earlier routine. So it's left us with 4 for the final routine. 14, 13, 9, and 7. Okay, well, let's go ahead and kind of separate this special sequence, which we know has been preserved or inverted by these shuffles. So remember, we'll maybe place the 1s on the left, the 0s on the right, following this. So it's like 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay, so what are we guaranteed to have done? Well, the goal here was to keep the joker away from all of the queens. So let's see if we succeeded. Oh, that's a good sign right there. Look at the joker. There's that joker. And here are the 4 queens, safely separated from that joker. Okay, wow. Well, we accomplished what we hoped to there. Despite all of this randomization and these free choices that are being made by the spectator. Okay, the fourth one. Suppose you want to keep 1, 2, 3, or 4 cards away from 1, 2, 3, or 4 other cards. Here, place the first set of 1, 2, 3, or 4 cards all in either positions marked by 0s or in positions marked by 1s, with the other set of 1, 2, 3, or 4 cards in the oppositely labeled positions. Okay? So that's what we're going to do here. So it really is, there's a lot of freedom here. So I think I just kind of made up an example that we could use. So let's say we have the 2 jacks, and we want them to end up in the same pile as the 2 queens, say the Queen of Hearts and the Queen of Diamonds. Okay, so that's kind of the goal, to have them end up together. So what was it? Queen of Diamonds. I'm just trying to find them here. Queen of Hearts. Okay, so we want these cards ending up, let's see. Oh, sorry. So the 2 jacks will end up in the same pile as each other, and the 2 queens will end up in the other pile. Oh, okay. We want these 2 pairs separated. Okay, they are not allowed to be together. Okay, and then so that would be kind of one way to go. There's a second of many other routines that you could make using this 4th routine. Okay, so right now we're going to try to keep these 2 away from these 2. Okay, well, the way to do that, of course, is to go ahead and, so we have 2, 4, so we need 4 more cards for this to work. We need 8 altogether. Okay, so if we're wanting the queens separated from the jacks in the end, we just need to make sure that wherever we put the queens, we put them in the same positions that have the same value, marked either as a 0 or a 1, and then we put the jacks in the oppositely labeled positions. Okay, so for example, if we wanted to, we could have like a queen there and a queen here. That would be fine. And then we could have In fact, this would actually be kind of nice, actually, come to think of it. This would be really nice. So what we're doing here is we're kind of putting them together, close to each other at least. So we have a queen, and then a jack, and then a jack, and then a queen. So they're next to each other now. The other 4 cards, it doesn't matter what they are, but they go on the bottom, let's say. And so in some sense, they're beginning together, right, in this fashion here. But we will be guaranteed to separate them in the end, right? So let's go ahead. Now we don't need to use our die to randomly choose the remaining shuffles because I think we only have 4 left. So let's see, a 50% cut. Oh, okay. Well, that one's not terribly exciting. This is where you take half the cards from the top and you put them on the bottom. Okay. So that's a very simple little operation there. And I should point out that the Chardelier 1 that we did earlier is actually equivalent to just doing what we just did there, which is quite surprising. Okay, and then we need to do a mange. So a mange shuffle comes in 2 varieties, over, under, and under, over. Which one would you like? Over, under? Okay, so this is how you do it. You push this card into your other hand. This one goes over. Next one goes under, over, under, over, under, over. Okay, so that is a mange shuffle. Earlier, we saw a mange 2 shuffle where we kind of pushed over 2 cards at each stage, okay? But the classic mange shuffle is the one that we just did. Now, PF won't be all that helpful for this particular routine. PF stands for packet flip. Okay, so what's a packet flip? Well, if you have some of these cards face up and some face down, a packet flip just means that you can go like this and then work from the other side with the rest of the shuffles, and it won't hurt anything. Okay, so really what it's saying is Bessey's are invariant under reversal of the ordering of the cards, okay? And then the last one, I believe there's only one left, is the FL squared F, okay? So this is where you begin dealing out until the spectator says stop. Okay, so you begin dealing, maybe they'll say stop there, and then you deal some more, maybe they say stop there, and then deal another one, maybe they say stop there, which is fine, and then maybe the last 2. Okay, so the first shall be last, so FL squared F stands for the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. So the last cards to be dealt are the ones that are picked up first. Well, that just means you stack them in the opposite order to which they were dealt. That's all that means, okay? We could do one more of these. So you're dealing until the spectator says stop, and maybe they say stop there. And maybe they say stop right there, and stop there, and stop there. That's fine. And you can deal into more piles than just 4. You can deal into 8 piles total if you just want 1 card in each, okay? So that is an FL squared F, okay. And that particular shuffle ends up being equivalent to just reversing the order of all of the cards. Okay, now we should be able to now separate this. So we're going to now keep the jacks away from the queens. Okay, because right now, you know, we don't know where they are right now. We honestly don't. Actually, no one does, unless you were able to track all of this, which would be very difficult. And on top of that, I can't anticipate what choices you would make. I can't anticipate those choices ahead of time. Okay, so I really could not know ahead of time what's going to happen here. In terms of exactly where the cards are. Now, I do know something, that this is a Bessey sequence of order 8. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that we can separate what we started out with as 1s and 0s, where we had certain cards in each position. We can now separate those 2 groups. So if you want to associate the left with 1s and the right with 0s, it would be 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. And so what we're guaranteed to do is separate the jacks from the queens. The queens are safe from those 2 mischievous jacks. The jacks are over there. So take a look at that. Okay, very, very good. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of these Bessey shuffles and different ways that you can use a Bessey sequence where you don't necessarily have to take advantage of the full power of the Bessey sequence, maintaining the level of structure that it does if you're just wanting to separate 2 cards or 3 cards or 1 card from 4 cards or whatever it might be. This one sequence of 8 cards can do the job despite a whole list of shuffles that are intended to randomize that packet using the spectator's input all along the way. Okay, and then I do have a last little note here, kind of a homework exercise of sorts. So number 5, explore the probabilities of allowing the spectator to randomly insert 2 cards into a packet of 6 cards that you hope to separate from each other into disjoint sets of 4 cards. That is, given 6 random cards, what is the probability that the spectator will place their 2 cards in either the 1's positions or in the 0's positions? Okay, so maybe you can give that a little bit of thought and try to answer that question. Well, how likely is it that they will actually place those cards in such a way that you can know ahead of time whether they will be separated into the 2 distinct groups of 4 or whether they'll be together within the same group of 4 at the end? Okay, well, thank you for watching. That's just another set of examples and applications using the Bessey sequence of order 8. In a course of higher orders, things get even more astounding, because for anyone to somehow keep control or know ahead of time what's happening with larger packets is just beyond belief, quite honestly. So thank you again, and take a look at other videos on the Hidden Structures channel. And in particular, if you'd like to learn more about Bessey sequences, I have a whole playlist devoted to Bessey sequences and Bessey shuffle diagrams. So thank you for watching.